Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
The basketball world's golden girl has stopped talking, but the din around her is overwhelming. We are no longer only discussing a roster snub. We are seeing the active demolition of the greatest marketing potential in sports history. And it may be permanent, according to the strongest voice in sports media. The WNBA elite is afraid to acknowledge a narrative that Stephen A. Smith has just strengthened. It goes beyond just benching Caitlin Clark. She has essentially given up on a system that obviously did not want her in the first place. The media attempted to convince us for months that this had to do with basketball standards. They explained that it has to do with paying dues, seniority, and chemistry. However, you discover something even more repulsive when you remove the layers of neatly crafted news releases and PR statements. You discover a tale of animosity, gatekeeping, and a degree of small-minded envy that has made basketball a battlefield. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already?
Great.
Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. Stephen A. Smith was not only critical of the choice. He revealed the rot at its center. He claimed that Clark is well aware of the situation and that her targeting is due to her importance rather than her lack of quality. Even if Indiana Fever managed to make a comeback, Clark has reportedly locked that door, according to rumors that are now going viral. According to reports, she has given up looking for approval from a group of friends who have been attempting to physically and psychologically harm her for the last 6 months. Why would America's most beloved athlete leave the international arena? What was it that everyone else overlooked but Stephen A. Smith saw? And is this the time when women's basketball's elite finally slaughtered their own golden goose? The tale of Caitlin Clark's basketball departure is going to reveal a dark side of professional athletics that nobody wants you to see, so fasten your seatbelt. We must go back to the time the news broke in order to comprehend why Stephen A. Smith is going to burn in hell. A typical roster announcement was the plan. These lists often appear. The news cycle shifts in a day after few fans lament a snub. This was not like the others. This was an earthquake of culture. Caitlin Clark, who was selling full venues that had been vacant for 10 years on her own, was left off the Indiana Fever when the leaks began to surface. Confusion was hardly the only response. It was fury. The selecting committee's formal justification was, at best, tenuous. They discussed their experiences. They discussed how joining the core group requires a 3-year commitment. On paper, everything made sense, but it disregarded what was really going on in the real world. Michael Jordan is a rookie, therefore you do not leave him at home. Tiger Woods has not paid his dues, therefore you do not leave him in the clubhouse. You put the most talented people on the aircraft. This is the gloomy part of the narrative, however. Insiders started disclosing that this was not a mistake. It was a message. There were worries about how the veterans would respond to Clark's presence, according to those close to the selection process. They were concerned about the circus she would bring. In essence, they were concerned that the legends who believed this was their team would have their egos bruised by the arrival of a rookie superstar. This was not a basketball choice. It included controlling emotions. They put the veterans' comfort ahead of the game's development. And Stephen A. Smith drew the line in the sand precisely there. However, his subsequent remarks went beyond just criticizing the committee. The accusation was sabotage. Stephen A. is renowned for his scathing opinions, but his response to Clark's rejection seemed different. It was intimate. He basically referred to the judgment as idiotic on national television. However, it went beyond simple name-calling. He dismantled the sports industry in a manner that exposed the committee's aptitude. He made a straightforward case. Basketball is a worldwide spectacle. Every 4 years, casual fans tune in to watch sports they might otherwise ignore. For many years, women's basketball has struggled to attract fans. All of a sudden, a player is attracting millions of viewers. When you leave a casual fan at home, She sets up DVRs for sporadic Tuesday night games in Indiana. According to Smith, this was a marketing catastrophe. He emphasized that winning titles is not the only goal of the Indiana Fever. No matter who is on the roster, they are successful. The Indiana Fever could have sent a college squad and probably still won because of their enormous lead over the rest of the league. According to Smith, the objective ought to have been to develop the game and broaden the brand. Smith said that by excluding Clark, the sports gatekeepers demonstrated that their own hierarchy is more important to them than the league's overall prosperity. He implied that there is a degree of foolishness in charge that is almost hard to understand without taking malice into account. They turned down a chance, not merely missed one. Additionally, Smith claims that Clark will not forget this disrespect. He implied that Clark's camp is recording every single individual who remained quiet and that the bridge may already be on fire. We must discuss the J word, jealousy, if we are to be truthful about why Caitlin Clark is not a member of the Indiana Fever. The WNBA fervently want to avoid this storyline, but it is the only one that makes sense. Go back in time to before Clark had a single professional minute. They were already firing the warning rounds. Legends of the game, ladies who stand atop the sport's Mount Rushmore, made remarks that seemed oddly antagonistic. One of the best of all time, Diana Taurasi, famously declared, "Reality is coming for Clark." It sounded like a warning. It sounded menacing. Then there was another legend, Cheryl Swoops, who falsely questioned Clark's college statistics and said that her dominance stemmed exclusively from her 40 shots per game. Why were these legends under such pressure? Why were they attempting to downplay a 22-year-old's achievements before she had even taken the court? According to the theory which Stephen A. Smith has hinted at, the old guard is upset about the attention Clark is receiving. They performed in gyms that were empty. They took commercial flights. For little compensation and much less respect, they pursue jobs. Now, an Iowa kid who has not even played a game, yet has fans standing in line, private planes waiting for her, and Nike sponsorships for millions of dollars. Although jealousy is a natural human emotion, in professional sports, veterans often support the rookie who makes the most money. The other golfers did not despise Tiger Woods when he revolutionized the game. He doubled their reward money, for which they were grateful. However, the response has been the reverse in the WNBA. They seem to be trying to penalize her for being well-liked. Clark may be secretly happy that she did not make the Indiana Fever because of the poison in the locker room. The press briefings were not the end of the animosity. On the hardwood, it spilt. At this point, the narrative switches from drama to actual peril. You have seen it if you have been following the games. Caitlin Clark receives a different kind of blow. Tough defense is not what we are discussing. We are discussing non-basketball plays. We are discussing the now famous Alyssa Thomas incident, in which Clark was caught off guard by a hip check before the ball was even in play. After calling Clark a derogatory term, Alyssa Thomas threw her to the ground. Simply put, it was a cheap shot. However, see the response. Was Carter suspended by the league right away?
No.
Were the veterans quick to defend Clark?
No.
Indeed, a number of athletes and media figures seemed to defend it. They suggested Clark needed to become tougher and termed it welcome to the league. This is a huge double standard, as Stephen A. Smith noted. The league would immediately impose sanctions to safeguard its assets if LeBron James or Stephen Curry were being cheap shot by nobody. However, it seemed like open season with Clark. This has a direct bearing on basketball. Why would Caitlin Clark want to go abroad for a month with teammates who either took part in the bullying or just saw it happen? The ladies who have been ruining her life for the last 3 months make up the Indiana Fever. There is no longer any trust. People who appear to want you to fail cannot foster a positive team environment. This leads us to the rumor of the soft quit, which is the most combustible aspect of the present scenario. There were rumors after the roster announcement that Clark would get a different slot from the Indiana Fever. She would essentially be ready to go in the event of an injury. They use it as a consolation reward to let her know, "We still appreciate you," without really placing her. However, others familiar with the matter said that Clark had no desire to serve as a fallback. According to rumors, she firmly but courteously said that she was not interested in waiting in the wings if she was not good enough for the main roster. The soft quit is this. There was no news conference for Clark. She did not act out. She just withdrew her availability in silence. Recent remarks by Stephen A. Smith lend credence to this view. He was implying that Clark had become aware of her strength. Right now, she is the WNBA's economy. Indiana Fever is not necessary for her to develop her brand. She was necessary for the Indiana Fever to construct theirs. She is essentially saying, you created your bed. Now sleep in it by leaving and taking the month off to relax. This is a boss move. Additionally, the establishment is furious because they thought she would beg. They anticipated that she would be appreciative of leftovers. Rather, she is on vacation while they perform in front of television viewers that are probably only half as large as they might have been. Since statistics do not lie, let us speak about them. The Clark effect is measurable and genuine. Caitlin Clark's games are attracting more viewers than the WNBA has seen in 20 years. In comparison to games without her, we are talking about a 300% to 400% rise in ratings. The stadia are full when Clark performs. They have to relocate the games to larger NBA venues when she visits other teams in order to accommodate the throng. She is the league's walking stimulus package. Stephen A. Smith made this idea quite clear. Basketball is a product of television. The rights to broadcast these games cost NBC millions of dollars. They're looking for ratings. The committee effectively lit money on fire by abandoning Clark at home. Here, the retaliation is passive. There is nothing that Clark needs to do. All she needs to do is sit at home. The argument will be shown when the ratings for the basketball games are much lower than those of a typical Indiana Fever regular season game. TV will broadcast the retaliation. Instead, millions of individuals who would have watched will be engaged in other activities, so it will not be. The choice is extremely difficult because of this financial realities. It is not just a sporting choice. It is a poor business choice. Furthermore, losing money is often the one transgression that results in termination in the professional sports industry. We must deal with the culture that made this possible. Fans are increasingly claiming that the WNBA has an issue with cruel girls. It is a clique. This sorority requires initiation, which is a harsh process. The league has been a close-knit group for many years. Everybody knows each other. In the off-season, they play together abroad. They are struggling together. Clark is a symbol of something fresh. She stands for the majority. She is an example of a casual fan. Additionally, it seems that insiders despise casual fans. It is visible on social media. WNBA purists are upset that Clark is the only thing that new fans are interested in. They tweet statements like, "We have been here for years." Encourage the other players as well. Although the delivery is nasty, the argument is valid. They are reprimanding the newcomers rather than embracing them. This mindset is lethal for a sports league, according to Stephen A. Smith. Instead of verifying new fans' credentials at the entrance, you need to be welcoming them with open arms. The committee perpetuated this us versus them mindset by omitting Clark. They made it clear that they would rather maintain their tiny, exclusive group than see a huge, inclusive surge in popularity. By all accounts, Clark has been courteous. She commends her rivals. She spends hours signing signatures. She takes the high road, but the more professional she appears, the more the league's mean girl vibe seems to intensify. Neutral onlookers are becoming hostile to the league's veterans as a result of this unsettling situation. Stephen A. Smith has mentioned another aspect of this, which is the corporate perspective. A Nike athlete is Caitlin Clark. Nike is a major sponsor of the Indiana Fever. The shoe corporations often have a significant impact on these rosters. They want their greatest celebrities to sell trainers on TV. So, why did not Nike intervene? Why did not they compel the committee to act? There are rumors that even Nike was unable to overcome the selecting committee's internal intrigues. Perhaps more intriguingly, there are rumors that Nike takes sides. Additionally, they fund veterans. Perhaps they did not want to disrupt their well-established roster. The general consensus, however, is that the committee held their position in order to demonstrate that companies do not manage the team, even when doing so harms their largest partner. Clark was going to launch a line of signature shoes. The ideal worldwide launchpad would have been basketball. This is no longer an opportunity. This corporate synergy failure is simply one more illustration of how dysfunctional the whole process was. The greatest athlete in the nation, Clark, and the largest marketing juggernaut in the world, Nike, unexpectedly crossed paths. It is an incredible blunder. Although we must use caution in this situation, we cannot overlook the internet discussions. The discussion has a racial component that has fueled the flames. Caitlin Clark is Caucasian. Black people make up the bulk of the WNBA. Some players believe that white players get more attention and grace than black players of comparable talent because of the heavy media coverage of Clark. Although this is a legitimate historical discussion, it has been weaponized in this particular case. People like Angel Reese, who has been at odds with Clark since college, have come to represent the anti-Clark mentality. The conversation on Twitter quickly became divided along racial lines when Alyssa Thomas fouled Clark. Stephen A. Smith, who never shies away from discussing racism in sports, has handled this with caution. While acknowledging the historical differences, he maintains that the figures in this instance are accurate. It is not simply race that makes Clark popular. It has to do with the way she plays. Like Stephen Curry, she shoots from the logo. It is thrilling. But there is no denying the racial strain in the dynamics of the locker room. The atmosphere becomes even more poisonous if Clark believes that she is being singled out or excluded in part because of these racial politics. For her, it becomes a no-win scenario. She is a villain if she speaks out. She receives a beating if she does not speak. She may escape this stressful situation for a month by avoiding basketball, which may be just what she needs for her mental well-being. We have not discussed Cheryl Reeve, the coach, enough. In addition to coaching the Minnesota Lynx, she is the head coach of the Indiana Fever. She tweeted things that appeared to diminish the attention Clark was receiving before the season even began. The broadcast schedule that favored the Indiana Fever was one of her grievances. How is it possible for a player to feel at ease playing under a coach who is openly criticizing her team's excessive TV time prior to the start of the season? Stephen A. Smith pointed out that this was a conflict of interest. The roster decision-maker has already shown prejudice toward the Clark hype train. Cheryl Reeve was brief, combative, and contemptuous when questioned about the choice to exclude Clark. She did not provide a cordial explanation. She gave a chilly shrug. This is a serious lack of leadership. An excellent coach controls egos. An excellent coach manages to combine the skills of young players with the knowledge of experienced coaches. By keeping the youngster out, Cheryl Reeve seems to have taken the easiest route and pleased the veterans. As a result, she failed her first attempt at leading women's basketball in the new age. Let us go back to the other location. Being an alternate is an unappreciated position in the world of professional sports. You travel and train, but you do not play until someone is injured. Many consider it a slap in the face to ask a player of Clark's caliber, who is essentially the face of the sport, to serve as an alternate. Consider inviting LeBron James to serve as an alternate during his first season. It would not take place. The best clue to Clark's attitude is the rumor that she essentially departed the alternative pool. She is aware of her value. No thanks, she said, regaining her dignity. She declined to cheer for a team that did not want her on the floor. And Stephen A. Smith adores that way of thinking. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one after you click the video on the screen.